When you start to look at all of the different job opportunities, I don't know what your majors are, but when you start thinking about these are the types of opportunities that I'm going to be applying for, you have to do some research on those salaries. I mean, there are certain things that I would love to do in terms of work, but I can't afford to do those. Okay, because I have certain expenses that I'm obligated to pay. So back when I was in school, one thing I did do was I thought about what type of college degree, what type of college, and what type of job is going to help me get the money that I need to make so that I can enjoy my life after I graduate. And so there's a lot of resources. Several of you have already started to use them, but you have to do some research. Don't sell yourself short. Making a budget, we just talked about that. So when you do this research and you think about these are all the skills that I have, whether I acquire them in college or through work, these are the types of job opportunities that people in my major have gone on to take. This is what they make on average. This is the geographic location that I'm wanting to be in. When you start to look at all those things, you can pretty much come close to a salary range that's going to be realistic and also that's going to accommodate the things that you're trying to do with your finances. Okay, so it's really important. Have that numbers just engraved in your head, whether it's 55,000, 60,000, 45,000, whatever that number is. You have to have that in a ballpark so that you can make some well-informed decisions regarding the companies that you're going to be applying for. Okay, any questions on any of that? Okay, I know from even talking with MBA students, when you talk about salary, it's very awkward because you don't know if this is something that you have an opportunity to negotiate. And a lot of times, I will be honest and tell you, a lot of times undergraduate students do not have the ability to negotiate. But several times you do. But the timing of when you have the discussion about salary is very, very crucial. You will never find any success in talking about salary before you get to the point where the employer wants to hire you. If you're just at an interview and you bring up salary, you probably have lost that job opportunity. When you want to bring up salary is when you know that that employer wants to expand you in an offer. It's almost like when you're meeting someone, and I apologize if this is not appropriate. I work with MBA students, so there's a lot of things I can say to them, but we always tell our students, you wouldn't meet somebody and say, hi, my name's LaTanya, you want to get married? You wouldn't do that, okay? I wouldn't do that. I don't know about you guys, okay? But you would build up to that because you would get to know the person, get to know what they like, what their goals are, if those are aligned with your goals. Well, it's the same thing with your employers and your employment opportunities. So you don't want to jump in and ask for the ring before you have some more information regarding the type of position it is, the culture of the company, and all those other things that you should be researching before you go into these job opportunities or these interviews. Yes, ma'am.
What if the person interviewing you asks what you're expecting your salary to be? Would you give them an actual number?
No. And actually, I've got a worksheet for you. We're going to talk about, how you get around that. Because if any of you have taken any kind of negotiations course, or maybe you've read some books, the person that puts a number out first usually is the loser in negotiations. So you want to do your best to avoid putting a number out there. And there's definitely some clever ways to do that, and I'm going to talk to you about some of those. Mm-hmm.
I tried to do that in an interview, and they interrupted me and said, "Well, give me a number." Mm-hmm. And I was so caught off guard, I didn't even know what to say.
Was this like a first interview?
Yeah,
you
it was
had?
the first interview.
Okay, that's actually pretty common because what I think they were probably doing is trying to figure out if they're going to be able to afford you. and then if not, they weren't going to waste your time or theirs. So that can definitely happen. And that's why, I mean, there are situations like that when you have to respond, otherwise you're not going to move forward. So what did you do in that situation?
I gave a number probably a little bit lower than I would actually want, but I mean, I knew I wasn't really interested anymore, so I kind of made up a number.
Were you not interested because of that conversation?
Yeah, and there was, I think he asked a weird question before, and I just thrown off and not interested in that job path, so.
Okay. See, again, that really is a great, it goes back to what I said about the asking for the ring too soon. She hadn't decided or determined that this was the employer of choice, and they're already asking her to commit to something, and it was uncomfortable, it was awkward, it wasn't timed right, and as a result, she lost interest. Okay? And that can happen to a lot of you. Employers have to do, when you go to the career fairs here at TCU, when you go to interviews and you're talking with employers, it's just as much their responsibility to win you over as it is yours to win them over. So don't feel that when you go through this process that you are not in the driver's seat at any time. Quite honestly, you're in the driver's seat most of the time because you go to TCU, your university has amazing opportunities for you to connect with employers. So if not that company, you have tons of other options. So it really was their loss because they didn't get an opportunity to really get to know her and know what she could offer to their company. And whoever she ends up working for will benefit from what she can do. And you really have to have that confidence because, again, like I said at the beginning, look at all the time you've invested here. If any of you can think back to your freshman year, and how awkward that was, that transition, and how you developed confidence over the years in terms of this is my major, this is what I want to do. Hopefully you've been able to see the transformation happening and you've developed some confidence. And that confidence is what you need to use when you're talking about your salary. Okay? So again, you don't discuss salary at the very beginning stage. You discuss salary when you have gotten through the interview process and it's pretty apparent that the employer is going to be extending an offer to you. Now that can be very awkward because a lot of times you have no idea what the salary range is for the job. So let's say you do decide, I need to make $50,000 if I want to, buy a home, buy a vehicle, travel, do all the other things that I want to do, pay back student loans, whatever your case is. 50,000 is that's your number that you've got up here. So let's say you start applying for opportunities and there's no salary information available to you and you really don't know what they're going to offer you. That can be a little bit uncomfortable because you are putting yourself in a situation where you don't know if this is going to fit in with your goals. Okay, so that's another plug for all of the resources that we're going to talk about today, and also, I think more importantly, just knowing what you're worth. What are employers paying people that have your skills, your degree in this particular region? You have to do all of that. You have to know what you're worth. Yes, ma'am.
So when would you initiate the conversation about college? Would you ask for a meeting?
We'll get to that, but the appropriate time is when you actually have an offer, okay? Because when you get an offer, guess what's going to be an offer? What they want to pay you, okay? So at that point, you know, okay, they want me. They've extended this offer to me, so I want to make 50. They're offering me 45. So that's when we'll talk about negotiating that. But that's the time when you know that now I can talk about this because it's very clear that they want to move forward with me. Okay? Before you get that offer, you really don't know if they are wanting to hire you. You might think that you've interviewed very well, and you probably will because I'm sure all of you take advantage of all the resources here to do that. But you really don't know until you get that offer in your hand that this employer really wants me. Okay, so again, I can't tell you how many times I've seen this happen and work turn out really badly for students. Really try your best to put them off Do not commit yourself to a particular salary. And also, it's not so much that you want to sell yourself short, but sometimes you just basically price yourself out of the market and you don't even have any kind of framework for why you've asked for $50,000 when you're looking at this particular type of job. So if you go in and you're applying for job A with company A, and all of the research says they're only paying 40, but you're asking for 50, you've got to be able to say why. You've got to be able to back up what you're asking for.